All right, we will go ahead and get started. So hello and welcome to the Virtual Artist Talk series. My name is Brandy Crocker and I am the Public Events Coordinator here at the Idle Jordan Museum, which we are at the museum today. Most of my job is planning the annual Indian Market and Festival we have every June. Indian Market brings together Native artists from all across the US and Canada to share their culture and art with art market visitors. Today we'll be talking with Crystal Hanna, who's a Cherokee Nation potter. She's going to talk about her Cherokee culture and her process of making her amazing pottery. Hello, Crystal.
Good morning. Glad to be with you guys.
We're awesome to have you. Crystal is actually talking to us from the lobby of the museum. So we're super excited to have her with us. She's our artist in residence right now, and she'll be here through September 19th. So can you start, Crystal, with telling us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, maybe something about your family or culture you'd like to share?
Sure. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I grew up about 70 miles from Tulsa. It's called Salina, Oklahoma. It was the Saline district, during removal. So my full blood, my mom and my grandparents were the Cherokee side of my family. Actually, my dad was like a quarter Cherokee, but his family never registered. But so on the books, I'm like half Cherokee, even though I'm more. But I just grew up like a little wild child, like we were at the creek, swimming, and I had an awesome childhood. We fished, we were always outdoors doing things. I married, like I was 20, and so I've been married a long time now. But when I was in my almost like late 40s, I guess I was around 47, I did meet this wonderful lady, Annabelle Six-Killer Mitchell. She was a master potter. So I met her in actually 1998. But she was also a treasure for Cherokee Nation. A treasure is someone that is culturally identified with maybe their art or maybe even cooking, foods. Or it can be a variety of different things that are related to the Cherokee culture. But so I actually did like a pottery apprenticeship with her in the spring of 1999. And it was a great opportunity in my life because my youngest child was already home from college. And so it just opened my mind to my culture that I never really had been exposed to. Because what we did is we did all the things to make pottery in the ancient way. So it was quite a learning experience. One that I never imagined that would be able to take me here like over 20 years later to have opportunities, because I am a member of Cherokee Nation, to let people know, about our Cherokee culture, and in particular, of course, the pottery that is basically inspired by the Temple Mound pottery, the early woodland to Mississippian time period is really my inspiration. And there's like the great thing that I've discovered about the pottery and going to museums and things is that you really can learn so much about the ancient cultures, and then studying the designs and the motifs and the shapes. It's been a great experience. I hope to continue it a few more years.
That's great. Thank you for sharing the awesome information about your family, and that's great to know. So you kind of led us into the next section here. Can you show us some of your pottery then, since you were just talking about kind of, the process and the ancient pottery? And
I do. I hand dig my clay and hand process it. There are a number of ways that you can do that. I mean, you can get the clay, make it dry so that you can like break it down into a powder and then sift it through something and then rehydrate it. The easier way for me is I just take a 5-gallon bucket and fill it, at least half full with the crushed up dry clay and put the water in it and then break it down to like a cream consistency. And I just use a screen because most of the clay I don't have to put a lot of temper in it. It has already some little fine sand particles that help with the binding of the clay. So that takes a little bit longer, but when the clay is ready, it's, I just prepare it, whenever it's to the consistency so that I can start either like coil or pinching or even flat work. And really, for me, the actual building of the pot doesn't take as long as maybe like the decorating of the pot. And the Cherokees in recent years have tried to promote what we call the carved wooden paddles. So it's just what it is. I mean, these are like ancient designs that were actually recreated, by an archaeologist, and they've studied all the potsherds and stuff. So I'm not good with a Dremel, and so he was so kind. His name is Larry Bean. His wife is Tammy, and she actually recreates pottery for museums, and she makes these huge vessels. I prefer smaller pieces myself. I do like the effigy pieces. So I do like a lot of turtles and frogs and fish. So like this is one that I've just been working on this week. And it was actually had very little coiling done to it. It was like slabbed and pinched and maybe like coiled here. And then just, since it's, in order for it to be a pottery vessel, it has to have an opening. So it's just my interpretation of a Mississippian-inspired little turtle bottle. And like I said, sometimes the design work can take longer, but what I have discovered in doing the research with the pottery, like some of the artifacts, is that it was just like linear lines, sun circles, even like sometimes like a swastika looking effect, but not really the deep carving like the Southwest potters might do. And that's done usually at what I call the leather hard stage, where you're just like drawing on a piece of paper, except you're just drawing in clay. So it is fun to recreate those. Like even for the spout of my pot, I actually stamped it with the paddle. And then for this, it's just hand drawing. And then after that, it's like burnishing. And this one is almost rock hard, so I'll still be able to probably put a little more burnish on it. And of course, the original purpose of burnishing was just to make the pots less porous, so they would be functional. For me, it's, aesthetics. Everybody likes shiny. I like shiny.
That's great. Are these pottery? They're not kiln fired.
Well, I do a lot of double firing at home.
Okay.
So I have a 3-sided brick kiln that's made out of fire bricks, and it has like a thick cement base to it because we live in the country, and most of my firing is done in the early spring or really any time of the year. But if it's dry or something, I have a little more protection from the elements. Like I don't want to start a fire, down in the pasture because it's always windy at home. And it also gives me a little more control of the fire by I fire in a container, and then I just tint it up so that I make sure that I get my clay from clay to ceramic and that it's vitrified. So I don't want to take a piece of pottery to a show or whatever that it's not going to be completely ceramic. So it's really important for me to get that higher temperature. And we have used a pyrometer, is that the correct word, to measure the temperature of the fire.
Oh.
So we've gotten up to about 1900 degrees. So that's pretty good. From what I understand, it could go from clay to ceramic, at least the minimum would be 1000 degrees. So a lot of people say, oh, can I just fire it in my oven? And so the answer is always no. You need that higher temperature to make sure that it's going to be in the ceramic stage. So, and that is a really important thing for me. And when I do the workshops where we actually go through all the steps,
Right.
that people know that it has to be. I want my vessels to at least hold water,
Yeah.
because they're not, they're still porous, but it's not going to break down
Yeah. Yeah, that's excellent to know. I probably like some of the attendees here, I was not aware of all of the temperature, the fire, all of that.
the
So
pot.
that's
It's still low fire. It's still very low fired pottery. So,
right.
and that's just the style of the pottery itself.
Yeah. So I know you've got a piece there that you've been working on. So if maybe you want to demonstrate a little bit for us
Sure.
and show us the work that you've been doing on that piece.
Sure. So, if I'm going to make a larger piece, I always go to flea markets and find the wooden bowls, because when you look at the shape, the bottom of the bowl, then you can visualize the shape of the bottom of your pottery. So I would actually just start out with a slab. Um, so in this case, I just use my husband's old t-shirts and as the barrier in between the bowl. And it helps, to like slide the bowl around if you need to get it out and help maneuver it. So some people might use a banding wheel or something, but this is my preference on making a larger piece of pottery. So I already rolled out, like one coil, and I've gotten my pot, just ready because I started this a few days ago. So it's already kind of setting up a little bit. And then I just make sure that it's scored really good and damp. The water is the glue. And I don't know how other potters do it, but there's all kinds of methods. I roll out my coil, but I go ahead and flatten it a little bit. It kind of takes some of the work out of the process itself. And of course, it's still all about even thickness and trying to make sure there's no air bubbles in your coil. And the funny thing is, like building a larger vessel doesn't take nearly as much time sometimes as building a smaller one, because you just get there faster. Another thing I like to do is I just take my thumb and put like a little, I don't know, like 35, 40 degree bevel on the side of it. And it just, again, takes away some of the work to try to put it on. And I've already pinched the sides a little bit thinner here. And I also like to just take a serrated tool where I've made that the bevel, and I just go ahead and score that coil. So now I'm just ready to attach the coil. Hopefully it'll go all the way around. And because I'm building the shoulder up on this particular bowl, I'm going to attach it to the inside of the bowl and see how the bowl itself works as a little turntable. So it works out pretty good. If I were making a little bit larger vessel, you would actually be able to like loop the coil on your arm to kind of help it thread onto your pot. So this one I made it's a little bit longer. I try to be a little more cautious about the ends because sometimes that is where you can get an air bubble. And I'll just like cut that off. Could score again in both areas. And try to maintain that even thickness. And then after that, it's just like connecting. Traditionally, like the ancient potters that didn't have like the modern Kemper tools, you might just even like just use a stone, so to kind of avoids, the finger imprints and keep your piece a little bit smoother. So lots of things actually can be used for pottery tools. To me, almost everything is a pottery tool, but So the stones help, and I'm just, want to make sure that I get that well attached, and you should not be able to see the seam on the inside. Something just as simple as just like a paring knife from your kitchen. You just, since I already had like the thin area and I had the beveled area, it's just a matter of just blending that area together and trying to maintain that even thickness. So, on a bigger vessel, obviously it does take, a little bit more time to go around, but it normally can go up pretty fast. And that's kind of the way that you build the pot up. So, and this I could envision maybe just, could be an open bowl. Yeah, I could build a shoulder up, and it could be a more bottle form. So there's lots of directions that you could go to just starting out in a round bowl.
So what is your vision for that, if you can share with us?
I don't know. I just haven't decided yet, because
The clay has to tell you yet.
The clay has to tell me. Besides, I did just bring like a limited amount of my, hand processed clay, and so I have enough. I don't know. It'll probably just will be like more just like an open bowl, maybe with a little turned out rim. I see a lot of that in the.
Oh yes, yeah.
In the pots that I see, where you just start, like working.
Yeah.
And I do love rim design, because a lot of the artifacts that I've seen, they do have maybe notches, or just even like maybe like river cane, where you just, I've seen a lot of that where you actually decorate the rim, with it's more like a punctate, I guess, technique. So.
Oh yeah.
I do like to use the traditional tools, and I may even, because it's at a really good consistency right now, to paddle stamp it. So it probably is just going to be like a paddle stamped open bowl. And then I'll burnish it, and hopefully it will dry and it will make it through the firing.
Yay!
Yeah, that's the important thing. And firing off obviously is like your Christmas morning, because then you've gone through all the steps.
Right.
And then you can see, if you've been successful or not. And sometimes I like what I see. And then sometimes if the firing didn't go just like I thought it should be, or maybe I didn't want too much smoke on it, I might actually fire it again, do another firing.
Excellent. I could see how that would be like Christmas morning. What great, beautiful prizes are going to come out of the kiln.
Is this the fruits of my work and labor, or is it something that's like I'm just going to hide away for a while?
I can't imagine that you have any of that.
Oh yeah, lots of it.
All part of the process, I'm sure.
Yes, it is.
Well, I think we might be at a good point here to take some questions. If anybody has any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask Crystal, or if you feel more comfortable typing them in the chat box, we can facilitate some questions too. So if anyone has anything that they would like to ask, now's your chance.
Hey, Brandy, this is Doreen.
Hi, Doreen.
I'm sorry, Crystal, that I was late to your talk, but I didn't hear about where you collect your clay, or if sometimes you use commercial clay. Hear a little more about that. Thank you.
Actually, the clay that I have been using has come from just north of Tulsa. It's in near Veneta, Oklahoma, and it's from her pond.
Your work is gorgeous.
Thank you. You may be familiar with Richard St. Smith. He's a Wyandotte potter, and he doesn't live very far from my friend. And so he had told me about the pond, and it's actually on Cherokee allotted land. So that kind of makes it a little more special, I think. It might
Yes.
not be the greatest quality of clay, you know, but some of it obviously is also in the processing. But it is plastic enough so that you can, you know, do almost any kind of shape with it. So it's good clay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. That's an awesome question.
Hi, Crystal. We have a question from Carol. She would like to know what tool you use to draw on your pottery.
I just use a stick, like a skewer. I also have, especially if I do like classes for kids and stuff, you know, it's just really easy and they're disposable. Just like maybe like last summer, or I don't remember when it was, my daughter had a stylist, you know, that they do use on nails. And it is really, and they come in different sizes, the little balls. Some of them are like really minute and some of them are a little bit bigger. So I just discovered, yeah, it's a great pottery tool. So, you know, for drawing. And I do use some commercial tools, like the Kemper tools, so that if I want to make a little larger incising line, or just for different, I guess, depths and shapes of the line I might be drawing on the pot.
So I have another question. Just in the background here, we can see one of your pieces, and it has this wonderful black, shiny quality. So what kind of glaze, if any glaze, do you use on your pottery?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So obviously, since I am more of a traditionalist, you know, there aren't glazes, but the thing with clay, when you're making the pot itself, the clay particles actually stick up. You know, it's very minute. You can't really like see it with your eye. But when you use a stone or even a river cane, you're able to polish and lay those clay particles flat so they get more of a mirror-like finish. And I do like the high burnish, but I also like the matte finishes, you know, where they are burnished and compressed, but they just don't have that high gloss. And sometimes if I use a slip out of the same clay body, it helps kind of coat that so that you get a really mirror-like finish. So this little guy, you know, is just what I call like inspired from a gourd. So it would be like a gourd effigy, but it's just stylized into some kind of bird. I don't know. So the techniques were like a little incised water design, and then some cross hatching. I do like the banding around the necks of vessels. And my daughter is into the dragonflies. So I said, why don't you paint your dragonflies like you do on your bags on my purse, on her purses, and put it on my pottery. So we did that, and then of course just stylized it into like some fashion of a bird. And actually the only hole is just like right in the mouth. So it's still considered, you know, like a vessel because it has the opening here, even though it's small. But it was fun. And it was just a way for me, when I did this, it was like the water is life movement, you know, that a lot of my artist friends were talking about. So it was my way to honor and make sure that we do preserve our water for future generations. So that's just my interpretation. And I just call it water is life because it represents the elements of nature that help keep our water clean.
Thank you. That was great. Good question, Sandy. I was gonna also ask, so you said your daughter does some painting?
Yeah, she's just like one of these multi-talented persons that can like pick up things. And like me, if I just like focus on my pottery, I might still, you know, get good at it. But she just like picks up things and she just does it and she's good. But
So does
I may be a little prejudiced there.
so I was going to ask, and have you taught her pottery, or have you taught, you know, any of your children or grandchildren, or are you kind of passing on the pottery?
I tried to get my grandson, who's 25, into pottery. And so he was able to go to the Santa Fe Indian Art Market one year. He was maybe 12. And it was before the granddaughters came along. There's 4 of those. And so at that time, we cleaned the clay, but he was watching the Transformers. And I said, why don't you just make, you know, a little mask and you can use kind of like the Transformer designs. And I think he made like 4 masks for Indian Market. And they looked really awesome because, you know, they were from the hand processed clay and we had done the blackening and the firing. And so he sold out like immediately off of my table. He says, okay, Grandma, I'm through now. I'm going to go play. So, but that was the last time I tried to get him interested, but now the granddaughters are coming along. And we just did like a virtual show for Cherokee Nation. It was a Cherokee holiday art market. We submitted our little, and we did the paddle stamped little pottery pieces. And so I think there was 4 girls and they did one collaboration where it was just like I should have brought it. I wish I almost did. It was a little open bowl and then they made some little people. And what it represented is in the Cherokee stories, it was the little people that came out at night and they were mischievous and they would do all kinds of things. So they made the vessel, but they still learned, you know, one of the stories of the Cherokee stories about these mischievous little people. And that's what we called it, you know, honoring the little people. And we just put them inside the bowl. It was really cute. And they won a ribbon, and money. So they were happy about that.
Yay, yeah, that's awesome. I hear Sandy saying yay in the background. Yeah, that's really cool. You know, blending the 2 things together, that's awesome. I think
I do want them to be proud, obviously, of their Cherokee heritage, because Grandma's not going to be here forever. And so hopefully it is something that I can leave, you know, my family.
I think there's just one more question, it looks like. Carol Murphy also wanted to ask, what type of paints are on the vessel?
It's just acrylics. Yeah, it's acrylics. So that's what, you know, what we had decided on. And I've had it for like over a year, and I've had it at different shows and stuff. So it seems to have bonded really well. I was a little leery about that, but it's done quite well.
That's awesome. Thank you for all the questions. That's great. I think we're at our time, so I don't want to take up any more of anybody else's time, but thank you so much, Crystal, for being here and for showing us your demonstration with how you do your pottery and your process and everything. That's amazing. It's great. And
I appreciate being here more than you know.
I will say, for anyone that's interested, Crystal's here through Saturday, and she does have a workshop that's happening on Saturday too. So that's on Eventbrite. You know, register through Eventbrite, and please. There's just a couple of openings left. So if you want to get in on it now. Crystal will be really excited to see you. So I want to thank everybody so much for attending today. This has been great. The next virtual artist talk in the series will be on Wednesday. So next Wednesday, September 23rd at noon. It's with the 2019 Harrison Eiteljorg Purchase Award winner, who's Monica Raphael. She does amazing quill work and bead work. So we're excited. If you like to follow our series, please tune in next Wednesday too. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.